working on demos for Thriller at Michael's house on Hayvenhurst in Encino. And he had converted the guest house to a studio. In that studio, among other things, he had this great big cast iron birdcage. It was painted white, but that thing was, probably 7 feet tall or whatever. It was a big birdcage, and it had a big bird. It had a great big white cockatoo. It was when we were taking a break, and I didn't smoke in the studio because Michael didn't smoke and no one else was smoking. So when we took a break, I stepped out onto the front porch of the guest house to have a cigarette. And I don't smoke anymore, by the way. I quit quite a while ago, thank goodness. Anyway, Michael grabbed some birdseed from the cockatoo's cage and came out and stood on the porch of that guest house with me. Now, the guest house sat at a right angle to the main house, and it overlooked this great big backyard. And at the far corner of the yard was a big tree. I don't know what kind of tree it was, a big pine tree or something. It was a large tree. So Michael says, watch this, and he stands and he holds his hand out. He's got the birdseed that he had taken from the cockatoo's cage, and he holds his hand out and he says, just be still. And I thought, he just stands there quiet as a statue, holding his hand up toward that tree that's like 100 yards away at the far corner of the property. And he just stands there. Now I'm looking at him like, what the hell is he doing? Boy's lost his mind. But then all of a sudden he stands there quiet as a statue. And here comes, swooping out of that tree, a big wild blue jay. And it landed on his outstretched fingers and calmly helped itself to whatever it wanted from that birdseed. And it wasn't just like hitting and run. It stood there for a couple of minutes, picking out the little morsels that it wanted. And I was just dumbfounded, because this was a wild bird. And I'd never been that close to a bluebird before. I didn't realize how big they are. It's practically the size of a raven. I mean, it's a good-sized bird. And it was definitely a wild bird, but how long did it take him to tame that thing that it would come and land on his fingers and eat food? And then it flew away, and that was that. It was amazing. The other time, Michael came up to the house that I was living at in Nichols Canyon. I love that house because Nichols Canyon is just a beautiful part of LA. You enter into that canyon and you leave LA behind, and you're in the woods, and there's a creek that runs along it, and I just loved it. And this house had, Nichols Canyon is part of the Hollywood Hills, and it's a canyon, there's hills, and the house had a parking area, and then you walked up some stairs to get to a big wooden patio area before you enter the house itself. And on that patio area, just a little bit off to the front door, was a big wooden porch swing, the kind that for the old folks, they just sit and gently rock. Michael sat down on that thing, and he did not gently rock. He started swinging on it like it was a playground swing. And he kept going higher and higher. And I'm looking at the chains. I didn't install this thing. It was there when we moved in. I'm going like, God, just, imagining the worst, that this thing comes crashing down and pulls the rafters down. Michael looks over at me and he sees the look on my face. And he immediately says, "I know, Michael, not too high." And he stops. And he was like a little kid. I didn't have to say a word. But I mean, he said, "I know, Michael, not too high." It's crazy. You know, the crazy thing about these two stories both happened the same day. Because we'll go into the second one. The crazy part for me is I can't remember why Michael paid me a house call that day. You know, I think he was dropping off a tape of something. I think it might have had something to do with the Diana Ross song, Muscles. But I can't remember. I remember these things, but I don't remember working on music. I think it was a short visit. I think he dropped off a tape or something. But whatever, that's not the point. All right, this is the part where I got to interrupt my own damn story to beg for subscriptions. It's come to my attention that less than 2% of the people watching the videos are subscribing. Subscribe. Thank you. The next story. I had this cat named Joey. Joey was a big, fat, gray cat that we'd had since he was a kitten. And Joey had never been mistreated, but he was just one of those cats that was a scaredy-cat. He was afraid of his own shadow. You didn't have to say boo to him. He'd jump anyway. Joey was just terrified of everything. He was an idiot, but he was also smart enough to realize that relatively even though he was a big fat kitty, he was smaller than these creatures around him. But Joey had this, we used to call it the cat condo, you know, the scratching post thing that's covered in carpet, and it's got like 3 levels and places the cats never go in the little holes, but they used to love to sit on top of it. And the thing is about waist high. And it was in the corner of the living room, right where Joey that was his spot. He would sit and sleep there. Michael came into the house, and the first thing he saw was Joey. He said, "Ooh, kitty." And he zoomed off toward him. I mean, he went at Joey fast, and I thought, this is not going to work out. You know, if I had moved toward Joey that quick, even though Joey knew me, he would have panicked and freaked out and taken off running. He didn't. As stupid as Joey was, he sensed that Michael meant him no harm. That somehow Michael was a beneficial creature. And Joey sat up and he leaned forward. Michael put out his hand and scratched him behind the ears, and they immediately became friends. I don't know how he did that. I mean, that incident, along with the one with the bluebird, I started to think of Michael as one of those characters from the Disney movie where he'd have bunnies and Bambi would be behind him and little birds twirling in the air around him. He just had a way with animals. There's just no doubt about that. He loved animals, and I guess even one as stupid as Joey could sense that. The last of these stories has to do with recording Diana Ross's Muscles. And it's less about the song because, you know, frankly, I can't remember what part I played on that. There's 4 keyboard players credited, and I think I just did some minor synthesizer overdubs. I think I might have been responsible for some of the explosions that happened right after the drum fills. They kind of sound like me, but it's not even about this song. I was happy to play on it. I was glad he called me. I am still disappointed I did not get to meet Miss Ross, because I had a crush on her ever since the first time I saw her on Ed Sullivan when I was a wee lad. But I just, huge fan. But she wasn't there. So that's 2 artists that I got to play on their records that didn't meet them, and thanks to Michael, Paul McCartney, Diana Ross, whatever. what what I did get to meet was the creature whose name lent itself to the song, and that was Michael's pet boa constrictor, Muscles. Muscles came to the Michael used to take that snake everywhere with him, and Michael said, "You want to meet my snake Muscles?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." I mean, I'm not squeamish about snakes. We had garter snakes when I was a kid, and I don't mind them. So Nelson Hayes, who was Michael's, assistant for many years. He was road manager on the '81 tour. A good guy. I always liked Nelson. But it took the two of them to lift Muscles out of its pillowcase and drape it around my neck. This snake weighed 75 pounds. And like I say, I'm not squeamish about snakes. Its skin was kind of nice. Of course, it was cool because it was a cold-blooded animal, but it was, that it wasn't, people have this stereotype of snakes being slimy. It wasn't slimy at all. It was just nice and smooth and so it was cool and it was heavy. But then all of a sudden, Muscles started closing up around my neck. And I said, yeah, I think Muscles has had enough. Can get this damn thing off of me. Because it was strong and it was starting to do what boa constrictors do. It's to constrict. And Michael thought it was the funniest thing in the world. He said, oh, he was just insecure. You weren't holding him right. I said, well, what? Am I a herpetologist or something? Come on. I don't know how to hold a 75-pound boa constrictor. You're right. I'm a damn keyboard player, and I'd like to live through to the next session. So Muscles went back into his pillowcase and back to sleep. And I asked Nelson, because I know a thing or two about snakes and what they eat. I said, that thing is got to be way past eating rats, isn't he? And Nelson said, oh, yeah, no, he eats rabbits. And I said, does Michael? He said, no, he makes me do it. Muscles had to be fed live rabbits. And Nelson said, Michael won't even watch. It's just, So it was part of Muscles' nature that Michael didn't care for. But that's the way it is with those snakes. You can't just give them a cold chicken. They like their food to be alive. So that was Muscles. And it was a trip. Michael was just, he was such a character. There's just, beyond the fact that I'm delighted that I got to be part of his music and get to know him in a little way that I did. He was just a unique person. That relationship with animals. I will say I'm glad that I didn't have to deal with Bubbles, the chimp. I had a bad experience with a chimpanzee when I was a kid. There was one in the pet store in Cheyenne, and that thing was mean. And the problem with chimpanzees is they've got 97% of the same DNA as human beings. And that makes it so you can't trust them. And they're strong. They're stronger than we are. So I don't like chimpanzees. I don't truck with them at all. No. But they're our cousins, so maybe they can't help themselves. Yeah. So that's my quartet of Michael Jackson stories. He was a special person. I miss him. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.